Do not react, observe. The power of pausing before acting. Emotion is weakness. Most people confuse movement with action, reaction with power. They believe that responding immediately is a sign of strength, that exploding in anger, defending their pride, or speaking back without pause shows dominance. It doesn't. It shows vulnerability. It shows that you are ruled by impulse, not reason. A Stoic does not react, he observes. There is a difference between the two. Reaction is automatic. It's a fire sparked by ego, by wounded pride, by fear. Observation, on the other hand, is deliberate. It demands stillness. It requires the discipline to pause when every part of you wants to lash out. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength begins with silence. When something provokes you, a betrayal, an insult, a disappointment, the first instinct is to fight, defend, justify. But that instinct is not your ally. It's your enemy wearing your voice. The modern world feeds on reaction. Social media thrives on outrage. News cycles are designed to provoke. Algorithms are built to hijack your attention and pull emotions to the surface. And most people, even the ones who believe they're in control, are dancing like puppets to that rhythm. Anger, envy, fear, validation, again and again. Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. The Stoic steps outside that cycle. Imagine this. Someone insults you publicly. You feel the heat rise in your chest. The world expects you to respond, to fire back, but you don't. You breathe, you allow the silence to stretch, you examine the words, the tone, the intention, and then calmly you either speak with precision or you say nothing at all. That is strength, not silence from weakness, but silence from mastery. He studies it. He watches it rise, examines it without flinching, and chooses whether or not it deserves expression. Most of the time, it doesn't. There is power in restraint. There is elegance in patience, and there is wisdom in knowing that not every attack deserves a counterattack, not every wound needs a reaction, and not every feeling deserves your obedience. The world will test you, daily, brutally, and without warning. Observe, don't react. That is the first step to real inner strength. You control nothing except yourself. The difference between what depends on you and what doesn't. The illusion of control is one of humanity's greatest sources of suffering. People obsess over outcomes, over the opinions of others, over timing, over recognition, over things that, in truth, were never in their hands to begin with. They pray for certainty in an uncertain world. They cling to expectations like anchors in a storm. And when life doesn't obey their plans, they break. But the Stoic sees the world differently. Epictetus said it plainly, some things are up to us and some are not. That line alone can transform your life, if you actually live by it, because most people don't. They hear it, maybe agree with it, and then go right back to trying to control the uncontrollable. Ask yourself, what is truly yours to command? Your choices, your actions, your discipline, your thoughts, your character. That's it. You don't control whether people love you, whether your plans succeed, whether tomorrow brings peace or chaos. You don't even control your body completely. It ages, it breaks down, it gets sick. But you always have authority over your response. Let's make this real. You prepare hard for a job interview. You control that, but the decision, that's theirs. You love someone deeply and treat them with respect. Your part. But whether they stay, not your call. You train, you sacrifice, you put in the work, that's your effort. But the recognition, the applause, the result, out of your hands. The Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to bend the universe to his will. He sharpens his focus on what he can control. His attitude, his effort, his virtue. That's why he's unshaken when the outcome disappoints, because the outcome was never his to own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have been given the mind and will to bear whatever happens." That's not resignation, it's liberation. It means the Stoic plays the game of life with full intensity, but without attachment. He builds, he loves, he acts. And if it all burns down tomorrow, he begins again, not bitter, not broken, simply free. People think control means power, but real power begins when you stop needing control. The world will always remain unpredictable. People will change, circumstances will collapse, outcomes will surprise you, sometimes in brutal ways, and the more you try to grip it all with tight, trembling hands, the more exhausted you'll become. You'll fear loss, you'll fear change, you'll fear life. The Stoic walks through fire with calm, not because he controls the fire, but because he controls himself. So the next time life turns on you, a plan fails, a person leaves, a door closes, pause. Remind yourself, this was never mine to control. But my response, my mindset, my next move, that's mine and that's enough. The world doesn't care about your feelings. The cruel truth that sets you free. It sounds harsh, maybe even unfair, but it's one of the most liberating truths you will ever confront. The world does not care how you feel. Nature doesn't pause for your heartbreak. Deadlines won't adjust for your anxiety. The rain will fall, whether you're depressed or hopeful. The world turns indifferent to your tears, your dreams, your pain. It's not malicious, just indifferent. And if you're waiting for it to stop and ask how you're doing, you'll be waiting forever. Now some will hear this and feel coldness, but the Stoic hears this and feels freedom. Because when you realize the world owes you nothing, you stop wasting energy on resentment. You stop asking, why me? You stop expecting fairness from a universe that never promised it. And instead, you begin to turn inward. You begin to build the one thing that does matter, your strength. Seneca wrote, life is not unfair, it is indifferent, and it treats each of us the same, as raw material for virtue. What you do with that raw material is up to you. You can curse your circumstances, or you can use them as the furnace for your character. You can cry for pity, or you can rise in silence and face what must be faced. Modern culture tells you to honor your emotions above all else, to treat every feeling as sacred. But a Stoic understands the difference between having emotions and being ruled by them. You feel sadness, fine, but do you stop? You feel anger, okay. But do you lash out? You feel afraid of failure, of rejection, of being misunderstood. But do you let that fear shape the course of your life? The world doesn't care if you're scared. It cares if you act anyway. You see it every day. Athletes compete while injured. Parents wake up and work through grief. Soldiers march through horror. Survivors rebuild from nothing. These are not superheroes. They're simply people who understood something most don't, that feelings are real, but they are not an excuse. Because here's the reality, the world moves on, with or without you. It rewards discipline, not emotion. It rewards consistency, not complaint. And it gives nothing to those who sit still and wait to feel ready. So stop waiting to be understood. Stop expecting the world to feel what you feel. That expectation is a prison. Burn it. You are not here to be coddled. You are here to be forged. And fire doesn't care if it burns your skin. It only cares if you endure long enough to become steel. So feel your pain, but don't serve it. Acknowledge your emotion, but don't obey it. And when the world doesn't blink at your suffering, don't curse it. Thank it, because in that silence, you are free to become unbreakable. Silence is power. The importance of silence in emotional and social battles. We live in a world that worships noise, constant opinions, instant reactions. People fight to be the loudest in the room, as if volume equals truth, as if speaking quickly and often is a sign of intelligence or strength. But the Stoic knows something different, something older, quieter, and far more dangerous. Power speaks less. Silence is not emptiness. It is restraint. It is calculation. It is the refusal to waste energy on what doesn't matter. And in the face of chaos, personal or public, silence is often the strongest move you can make. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And what's more outside your control than the mouths of other people, their opinions, their attacks, their noise? That's why silence is not weakness, it's mastery. In emotional battles, silence protects you. When someone provokes you, they want your energy. They want your reaction. They want to pull you into their storm so you forget your center. But when you answer with silence, you remain anchored. You deny them control over your mind. You've seen it. Two people arguing, shouting, spiraling. Then there's the third who stays still, who listens, who waits. That's the one you notice. That's the one with power, because real strength isn't loud. It's composed. In social battles, silence creates mystery. It draws attention by refusing attention. When you're not constantly explaining yourself, defending your choices, or reacting to nonsense, people begin to wonder what you're thinking, and that alone gives you the upper hand. As Robert Greene said in the 48 Laws of Power, the more you say, the more common you appear. The Stoic knew this long before any modern strategist. Silence is the shield that protects you from your own emotions. It creates space between what you feel and what you do. That space is where wisdom lives. That space is where you choose your response instead of reacting blindly. Most people live without that space. They are slaves to their emotions, carried away by every insult, every headline, every fear. But the Stoic sits with the emotion, observes it, doesn't run from it, doesn't fight it, just watches it silently. And in that silence, it loses power. There is also the silence of discipline. You don't need to announce your goals. You don't need to explain your grind. You don't need to tell the world what you're building. You just build. And one day, the result speaks for you, louder than words ever could. The world today rewards outrage. It baits you into arguments. It tempts you to shout your truth into a void that isn't listening. But not every opinion deserves an answer. Not every attack deserves a counterattack. And not every emotion deserves your voice. Silence isn't retreat. It's strategy. It's self-respect. It's choosing to be a master of yourself when the world is begging you to lose control. Pain is the training of the soul. Suffering as a tool for growth. No one seeks pain. No one looks for suffering as if it's something to be embraced casually. And yet pain is one of the most powerful forces in shaping human character. It is not a curse. It is a crucible, a forge. It shapes, strengthens, and refines. The Stoic sees pain as a tool, not an obstacle. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, understood this deeply when he said, "Difficulties are things that show a person who they are." Pain reveals what is inside us. It uncovers our weaknesses, our illusions of control, our avoidance of reality, and it forces us to confront these things head-on. In a world obsessed with comfort, people spend their entire lives running from discomfort. They avoid the cold, the heat, the exhaustion, the rejection. They numb themselves with distractions. But the Stoic knows better. He knows that it's in the hardest moments, the pain of loss, the agony of failure, the loneliness of struggle, that we are forced to grow. You cannot be a strong person without pain. Strength doesn't come from avoiding hardship. It comes from enduring it, learning from it, and using it to sharpen yourself. Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. Every drop of sweat, every sore muscle, every grueling repetition. This is the process of becoming something greater. The pain isn't punishment, it's progress. Every time the athlete pushes beyond their limits, they are forging a stronger body, a more resilient mind. But if they avoided the pain, if they refused to push through the discomfort, they would never reach their full potential. The same applies to the soul. When you experience suffering, it's easy to think of it as a burden. It feels like something that happens to you, an unfair weight you must carry. But the Stoic understands that it is an opportunity to test your resilience, to refine your character, to grow in ways that ease and comfort never could. It is in the face of pain that the soul is hardened like steel in a forge. The world today tries to avoid pain at all costs. We have comforts, distractions, and quick fixes designed to keep us from feeling discomfort. But the more we run from pain, the more we weaken ourselves. True growth only comes when we face our suffering directly, without running, without hiding. The Stoic embraces pain because he knows that it is a tool. He understands that every painful moment is an opportunity to learn. What is this teaching me? He asks. How can I grow from this? This isn't masochism. It's the understanding that just as an athlete uses physical pain to get stronger, we must use emotional and mental pain to strengthen our resolve, sharpen our wisdom, and deepen our character. Pain will come. It is inevitable, and when it does, you will have a choice, to let it break you or to let it build you. The Stoic chooses the latter, and in that choice, he becomes unbreakable. Do not seek happiness, seek resilience. Happiness as a consequence, not a goal. In a society driven by the pursuit of happiness, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment are things to be chased down. People measure success by how happy they feel, constantly striving for that fleeting moment when everything feels right. But the Stoic knows that happiness, in the sense most people chase, is an illusion, a shifting target that can never be captured permanently. Instead, the Stoic seeks resilience, the ability to endure, to rise, to persist, no matter what life throws their way. Happiness is the byproduct of resilience. It comes naturally when you stop chasing it and focus on building the internal strength that allows you to handle the unpredictable nature of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But happiness, in this sense, isn't something you pursue directly. It's the result of your mindset, your capacity to face challenges without being consumed by them. Resilience is the foundation. From it, happiness grows, quietly, naturally, without force. Consider how the most fulfilling moments of life often arise when you least expect them. It's not when you're striving for them, but when you're immersed in something meaningful, something that demands your full attention and effort. Happiness comes not when you seek it, but when you dedicate yourself to something worthy and face every obstacle with resilience. In those moments, happiness is a side effect of your strength, your commitment, and your perseverance. Resilience is the muscle that allows you to keep going when happiness feels distant. It's what holds you steady when everything else is crashing around you. It is not the absence of pain or discomfort, but the ability to persist in spite of them. Happiness, like pleasure, is fleeting, but resilience is the thing that anchors you, that makes you capable of finding peace even in difficult moments. We all face struggles. We all encounter disappointment, failure, loss. Life's unpredictability can knock us down over and over again. But the Stoic asks, what will you do when that happens? Will you give in, or will you rise? Will you complain, or will you keep moving forward? The answer to those questions defines your life, not the pursuit of happiness. When you focus on building resilience, you stop depending on external circumstances for your happiness. You begin to understand that life's challenges are not things to be avoided, but opportunities to grow. It's in facing the difficulties that we discover our strength, our capacity to endure, to learn, and to emerge stronger. The pursuit of happiness, in the way that most people define it, is a never-ending cycle. You get a bit of pleasure here, a small moment of contentment there, but it never lasts. Happiness, if it is your goal, will always be just out of reach. But resilience? Resilience is something you can control. It is something you can build, nurture, and grow. So stop chasing happiness. Start building resilience, and in time, you'll find that happiness comes naturally as the reward for your strength, your perseverance, and your ability to weather life's storms with grace. Death is always near. Memento mori. How the awareness of death changes everything. Memento mori. Remember you will die. It's a phrase that echoes through the centuries, a reminder that death is not something far away, something abstract. It is near. It is inevitable. And yet, most people live as if it's something they can outrun, something that can be put off until a distant tomorrow. The Stoic, however, understands that death is always with us. It is not a shadow to be feared, but a companion to be acknowledged. The awareness of death is not morbid. It is not depressing. It is liberating. It is the key that unlocks the truth of life, that time is finite, and everything you do in this brief moment matters. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And how do we waste it? By ignoring the inevitable, by pretending that we have endless days, endless years. But death doesn't wait. It doesn't care if you've made plans or if you've been distracted by the trivialities of life. It comes for us all, and it comes without warning. This is not a reason to live in fear or despair. Quite the opposite. The awareness of death is the greatest motivator for living fully. The Stoic does not shy away from this truth. Instead, he embraces it, because in embracing it, he lives more consciously, more intentionally. When you live with the constant awareness that death is always near, you begin to understand the preciousness of time. You stop wasting it on things that don't matter, on grudges, on petty arguments, on distractions. You begin to focus on what is truly important: your relationships, your work, your growth, your virtue. You spend time doing things that bring meaning, not fleeting pleasure. You stop postponing your dreams because you understand that time is not a luxury. Every day is an opportunity, a gift, a chance to live as if it were your last. It's not about fearing death, but about embracing life with a deeper appreciation. What do you want to leave behind? What kind of person do you want to be when the end comes? The Stoic answers those questions with purpose. The awareness of death also brings perspective. It allows you to step back and see the larger picture. How many of the things you stress over truly matter? How many of the worries you cling to are insignificant in the grand scheme of things? The fear of death makes you realize that most of the things we concern ourselves with, the small failures, the judgments of others, the disappointments, are merely temporary. They are distractions. Death forces you to focus on what is real. It strips away the illusions that we can live forever, that we have all the time in the world. And in that clarity, you begin to act with purpose. You make decisions that align with your values, that honor your time, that invest in what truly matters. Memento mori is not a call to despair, but a call to action. It is a reminder that life is short, and you are in control of how you use your time. You can let it slip away in mindless distractions, or you can seize it and live with intention, knowing that each day brings you one step closer to the end, and that the only thing that truly matters is how you lived in the time you had. So remember, you will die, and that truth, that inescapable fact, is the key to a life well lived. Live as though today is your last, and you'll find that every moment becomes more meaningful, more powerful, more full. You will lose everything, and that's okay. Attachment is a prison. Let go. We cling to things. We hold tightly to possessions, to people, to successes and comforts. We think that the more we accumulate, the more we control, the safer we are. But the Stoic understands a brutal truth. Everything you have will eventually slip through your fingers. People will leave. Possessions will break, wear out, or be taken. Even the most cherished moments will fade into memory. And that's okay. The Stoic doesn't mourn the loss of things because he knows that attachment to anything external is a form of self-imposed imprisonment. We imprison ourselves with expectations, with desires, and with the belief that our happiness depends on these fleeting things. But happiness, for the Stoic, is not dependent on what we have. It is found in the freedom that comes from letting go. Epictetus, a great Stoic philosopher, taught, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And the key to freedom, he understood, is to stop attaching your sense of self-worth to things that can be taken from you. You will lose everything. That is the nature of life. People die, things break, circumstances change. But what you have in yourself, your character, your virtues, your mind, that is yours. No one can take it. No external force can strip it away. This is where true strength lies. Attachment breeds suffering, When we become too attached to something, we fear losing it. That fear consumes us. We live in anxiety, always anticipating the inevitable loss. But the Stoic faces this fear head-on. He doesn't run from it. He accepts it, because he knows that in the end, nothing external is permanent. The Stoic practice of negative visualization, imagining the loss of something before it actually happens, is a powerful tool for freeing ourselves from attachment. When you picture the loss of something you hold dear, you begin to understand that life will go on. You will endure, and you may even find that you are better off, unburdened by the need to possess or control. Think about the things you're holding on to today, whether it's a relationship, a job, a possession, or a status. What would happen if they were taken away? Would you fall apart, or would you accept the loss with grace and continue to live, to move forward? The more you cling to things, the more you bind yourself to them. You allow them to dictate your happiness, your peace of mind. But the Stoic breaks free of that chain. He practices letting go. He releases the need to control the uncontrollable. Loss is inevitable. It's not something to fear, but something to embrace. Every loss is an opportunity for growth. It forces you to look inward and discover what truly matters. It challenges you to rely on your inner strength, to find contentment within yourself, not in what you have or hold. When you stop clinging to external things, you free yourself. You allow yourself to experience life fully, without the constant fear of loss. And in that freedom you find peace. Let go, release your attachment. And in doing so, you will discover the freedom that comes from knowing that nothing, absolutely nothing, can take away your ability to choose how you respond, how you live, and how you find meaning. You will lose everything, and that's okay. What you choose to become in the process, that is all that matters. Discipline is freedom. The paradox of self-control. In a world where instant gratification reigns supreme and the pursuit of comfort is a never-ending race, the concept of discipline as freedom might sound counterintuitive, even absurd. Freedom to many is the ability to do whatever they want, whenever they want, without restrictions. But the Stoic sees a deeper truth. True freedom is found not in indulgence, but in self-control. The Stoic paradox is simple. To be truly free, you must first impose discipline upon yourself. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, understood this paradox when he wrote, "Freedom is the power to live as we choose." But that power does not come from abandoning structure or restraint. It comes from the ability to govern your own actions, to shape your responses to external events, and to choose how you invest your energy. Discipline allows you to break free from the chains of impulsivity, external expectations, and fleeting desires. It puts you in control of your own life. Discipline is the ultimate act of self-liberation. It is the ability to say no to distractions, to control your impulses, and to focus on what truly matters. The Stoic doesn't allow external circumstances to dictate his behavior. He doesn't surrender to his emotions, his cravings, or his moods. Instead, he masters them. And in mastering himself, he gains the freedom to live on his own terms. Think about it. When you lack discipline, you are constantly at the mercy of your desires. You act on impulse. You chase pleasure, avoid discomfort, and surrender to every whim that comes your way. You are not free, you are enslaved by your own reactions. On the other hand, when you exercise discipline, you control your actions. You decide where to focus your energy. You choose your priorities, and in doing so, you create the space for true freedom. Freedom to pursue your goals, to live with purpose, to act in alignment with your values. Discipline allows you to shape your life in a way that instant gratification never could. This paradox is best understood through the example of physical training. If you want to build strength, you must subject yourself to discipline, consistent effort, rigorous routines, and the willingness to push through discomfort. The more disciplined you are with your body, the more freedom you gain in your physical abilities. You are not restricted by weakness or laziness. You are free to move, to lift, to run, because you've trained yourself to do so. The same applies to the mind. The more disciplined you are with your thoughts, your focus, and your emotions, the more freedom you gain in how you respond to life's challenges. You are not controlled by stress, anxiety, or fear. You are free to act with clarity, purpose, and composure. The key to this paradox is understanding that discipline is not a restriction, it is the path to empowerment. The Stoic does not shackle himself with unnecessary rules or constraints. Instead, he understands that true freedom comes from the ability to choose how he responds to the world, and that choice is only possible through discipline. Discipline frees you from the tyranny of external circumstances. It frees you from the need for approval, from the endless pursuit of pleasure, and from the fear of discomfort. When you master yourself, you are free to live authentically, to pursue what truly matters, and to find peace in the face of adversity. In the end, discipline is the key that unlocks the door to real freedom. It allows you to live in alignment with your values, to respond with wisdom instead of reaction, and to cultivate a life of meaning and purpose. It is the paradox that, in restricting your impulses, gives you the ultimate freedom. The freedom to choose how you live, be unshakable in chaos. The Stoic stance in the face of the unpredictable. Life is full of uncertainty. The future is unknown, and even the present can be chaotic. In an instant, things can change. A job can be lost, a relationship can end, a tragedy can strike. The world is in constant flux, and to be human is to be vulnerable to the forces that shape it. But in the midst of chaos, the Stoic stands firm, unshakable, unyielding. The Stoic teaches that we cannot control the world around us, but we can control how we respond to it. In moments of uncertainty, when everything seems to be falling apart, the Stoic's response is simple. Remain calm, remain steadfast, and focus on what is within your control. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This wisdom is not just philosophical abstraction, it is a practical approach to the unpredictability of life. We cannot prevent adversity, but we can choose how we react to it. This is the foundation of Stoic resilience. The chaotic nature of life is an inevitable truth. The Stoic does not waste energy fighting it, wishing it were otherwise, or trying to bend reality to his will. Instead, he accepts it, not with resignation, but with a sense of equanimity. He knows that life is not meant to be predictable or controllable, and so he places no expectations on external events. What matters, and what he can control, is his inner state. Consider how often people find themselves devastated when things don't go as planned. A failed project, an unexpected illness, a global crisis. These things can throw most people into a spiral of stress, anger, or despair. But the Stoic, through practice, learns not to be overwhelmed by the external world. He remains anchored, understanding that the only thing that truly matters is how he chooses to respond. The Stoic's mindset in chaos is not to react impulsively to panic or to be consumed by emotion. Instead, he pauses, he steps back, he observes. In the storm, he takes a moment to regain clarity. He understands that his emotions, while natural, do not have to dictate his actions. He remains present and mindful, focusing on the next step, not the overwhelming chaos around him. This doesn't mean that the Stoic is detached or indifferent to suffering, quite the opposite. The Stoic feels pain, grief, and fear. He acknowledges the presence of hardship, but chooses not to be ruled by it. He doesn't deny his emotions, but he doesn't let them control him either. His power lies in his ability to maintain composure, to face difficulty with courage and wisdom. A key principle in Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, the understanding that some things are within our control and others are not. We cannot control the actions of others, the events of the world, or the outcomes of our efforts. What we can control is our mindset, our responses, and our decisions. When we face chaos, we focus on what we can control, how we think, how we act, and how we choose to react to the circumstances that life presents. The Stoic approach to chaos is not about seeking calmness in the face of external chaos. It's about creating internal calm through self-mastery. It's about building a resilience that allows you to remain steady even when the world around you is in turmoil. In times of crisis, the Stoic asks himself, what can I control? What is the best course of action? He doesn't waste energy on things beyond his control, such as the past or the future. He focuses on the present moment and acts with wisdom and clarity. The Stoic stance in chaos is a choice. The choice to maintain your equilibrium, to stay rooted in your principles, and to keep moving forward no matter how turbulent the world becomes. It is not a passive stance, but an active one, grounded in strength and resolve. When life's unpredictable storms hit, you will be tested. Will you be swept away by emotion and circumstance? Or will you stand firm, unshakable, grounded in your understanding of what truly matters? The Stoic knows that chaos is inevitable, but so is his ability to remain unshaken. Other people's opinions are noise. How to ignore judgment and stay focused. In a world dominated by external validation, it's easy to get swept away by the opinions of others. We are conditioned to seek approval, to care about how others see us, and to measure our worth against their judgments. But the Stoic knows that the opinions of others, no matter how loud or persistent, are mere noise, distractions that do nothing but divert us from our true path. The truth is, other people's opinions are out of our control, and yet we often allow them to control us. We change our behavior to fit societal expectations. We second-guess ourselves because we fear criticism. We shape our decisions based on what others might think, rather than what we believe is right. In doing so, we surrender our power. We hand over the reins of our lives to those who have no claim over our internal peace. The Stoic, however, takes a different approach. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher, teaches us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This includes the opinions of others. The Stoic understands that while he cannot control what others think, he can control his response to their judgments. He chooses not to let their opinions shape his sense of self or divert him from his goals. Consider the modern world. Social media, constant comparison, and the pressure to conform to ever-shifting standards. Every day, we are bombarded with the judgments of others, from the strangers in comment sections to the close friends and family who offer unsolicited advice. In this environment, it becomes incredibly easy to get lost in the noise. But the Stoic remains centered. He knows that his self-worth does not depend on the fleeting opinions of others. He defines his own value, rooted in his actions, his principles, and his inner character. No external voice, no matter how loud, can take that from him. How do you ignore judgment and maintain focus then? First, you must remind yourself that the opinions of others are not facts. They are projections, reflections of their own fears, desires, and biases. Just because someone thinks something about you does not make it true. You are not defined by their perceptions of you. Second, the Stoic practices the art of detachment. When faced with judgment, he steps back, observes, and separates his sense of self from the external noise. He does not internalize the opinions of others. Instead, he focuses on his own principles, his own goals, and the actions he believes are in line with his values. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us how much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only to what he does himself. The Stoic does not waste his energy on the judgments of others. He is clear about his own purpose and remains undistracted by the ever-changing views of the crowd. Third, you must remember that you cannot please everyone. It is impossible. Some will approve of you, others will not. And both reactions are outside your control. The Stoic understands that true freedom lies in choosing your path and walking it with integrity, regardless of external validation. When you focus on your own growth, on your own values, you will attract those who resonate with your authenticity. Those who don't simply don't matter. Finally, practice focusing on what you can control, your own thoughts, actions, and responses. When you allow yourself to be swayed by others' opinions, you give away your power. But when you choose to focus on your own inner compass, you reclaim that power. You stop chasing approval and start living true to yourself. In a world that is constantly judging, the Stoic walks a path of self-assurance. He listens to criticism, but he doesn't let it define him. He knows that the only judgment that truly matters is his own, based on his actions, his character, and his commitment to living in accordance with his values. The next time you find yourself distracted by someone else's opinion, pause. Remember, their thoughts are not your reality. Stay focused on what you can control, your own actions, your own integrity. When you stop seeking approval from others, you gain the freedom to live authentically, without fear of judgment. The opinions of others are noise. Silence it, and you'll find the clarity to focus on what truly matters.